Hello and welcome to this COP26 Roundtable on the clean power transition. I'm Nisha Pillay and I shall be your moderator today. We're gathered here to discuss practical ways to accelerate the transition away from dirty fossil fuels like coal and diesel, and to speed up and scale up the shift to clean power, to renewable and resilient power systems. We're not going to meet our ambitious Paris Agreement targets if we don't do things differently, if we don't come together as an international community and be more cooperative. Rich countries, developing countries, the private sector, civil society, sitting around the same table, sharing expertise and experience and funding. The UK is committed to hosting a truly inclusive and ambitious COP26, leaving no one behind. And to that end, there will be many opportunities in the year ahead for key constituencies to have a voice, to share their concerns and their priorities. As for this meeting today, well, we have a packed agenda, and I'm going to respectfully ask all our speakers to stick to their allotted time, and forgive me in advance if I have to nip in and move the speaking platform onto the next speaker. I'm delighted to say that we have the president of COP26, Alok Sharma, with us here at the round table. There he is. Hello, Mr. Sharma. He's going to be our listener-in-chief at this meeting, and we'll be hearing from him at the end of the meeting. What are his key takeaways? So, are we ready to start? Our first speaker is the UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, who is a tireless champion of the need to say no to coal. Secretary-General, the floor is yours. Secretary-General, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Excellencies, dear friends, I'm very pleased to join you. The year ahead is going to be critical, not only in beating the COVID-19 pandemic, but in meeting the climate challenge. Central objective of the United Nations this year is to build a global coalition for carbon neutrality by the middle of the century. All countries need credible mid-term goals and plans that are aligned with this objective. The United Kingdom, as host of COP26, has a crucial role to play. To achieve net zero emissions by 2050, we need an urgent transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. And we especially need to support developing countries in this shift. So I welcome today's discussion and also the focus in Africa. There are two clear objectives: inclusivity and sustainability. Some 789 million people across the developing world have no access to electricity at all, and 3/4 of these people live in sub-Saharan Africa. This is both an injustice and an impediment to sustainable development. All nations need to be able to provide access to electricity for all, but that energy needs to be clean and renewable, so it does not contribute to the dangerous heating of our planet. And that means strong commitment from all governments. We need to end fossil fuel subsidies, put a price on carbon, and shift taxation from people to pollution. And we need a commitment to build no more coal-fired power plants anywhere. And we need to see adequate international support so African economies and other developing countries' economies can leapfrog polluting development and transition to a clean, sustainable energy pathway. That is why today I repeat my appeal to developed nations to fulfill their long-standing pledge to provide $100 billion a year for developing countries to support both mitigation and adaptation. The World Bank, the African Development Bank, and national development banks must develop financial instruments that can reduce investment risks and attract private capital to African countries. Let me also emphasize, with climate disruption already upon us, we must not neglect the vital importance of adaptation. Africa's vulnerability is plain to see, from prolonged drought in the Sahel and the Horn of Africa to devastating floods in southern Africa, as it is the case in many other parts of the world. Adaptation is a moral imperative. It must not be the forgotten component of climate action. But today, only 20% of climate finance is for adaptation. Equal attention and investment must go to adaptation and resilience, as well as mitigation. The forthcoming Climate Adaptation Summit on the 25th of January is an opportunity to generate momentum in this much neglected area. Dear friends, Huge amount of money have been earmarked for COVID-19 recovery and stimulus measures, but sustainable investments are still not being prioritized. We must invest in a future of affordable renewable energy for all people everywhere. Funding needs to flow to renewables, just transition programs, economic diversification plans, green bonds, and other instruments that advance sustainability. To limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius, emissions need to fall by 7.6% every year between now and 2030. And this translates to an annual 6% decrease in energy production from fossil fuels. Yet today, some countries are still going in the opposite direction. And they are being encouraged in that direction by some donors and international financial institutions. We need to reverse this trend. Bottom line is that all public and private finance flows should support the goals of the Paris Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. I particularly appeal to the private sector champions of renewable energy. Many are already building local, national, and international networks. We need their know-how and their creativity to accelerate the renewable energy transition. Let me emphasize, this must be a just and inclusive transition. That means training and reskilling and providing new opportunities. A sustainable economy means better infrastructure, a resilient future, and millions of new jobs, especially for women and young people. Excellence and dear friends, we have the opportunity to transform our world. But to achieve this, we need global solidarity, just as we need it for a successful recovery from COVID-19. And Africa must be at the center of this engagement. In a global crisis, we protect ourselves best when we protect all. We have the tools, let's unlock them with political will, and I thank you.
Secretary General, thank you very much for your urgent call to action there. As we heard from the Secretary General, almost 800 million people around the world have no access to electricity at all. It's shocking. Well, the Secretary General's Special Representative for Sustainable Energy is Damilola Ogunbiyi, and she is also CEO of Sustainable Energy for All. So how does she see the challenge of moving away from dirty fossil fuels while at the same time expanding access to those who have no electricity at all? Damilola, what are your thoughts?
Your Excellencies, Honourable Ministers and distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to be here today speaking to you all. I'm also the co-chair of the COP campaign's energy transition, working very closely with the COP President Alok Sharma and the Deputy Chair, State Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng. For SE4All, we have been privileged to work in partnership with the COP unit on the energy transition campaign since early 2030 and look forward to what we feel we can achieve all together by the time we meet in Glasgow for COP26. Yeah. This is an important leadership moment for critical mass for many countries to make ambitious commitments to accelerate the energy transition for those that have been made important commitments to share global communities their roadmaps for achieving their energy transitions and net zero carbon economy. But as we hear today, we have to make something clear. The energy transition story is also the energy access story, especially in Africa. We must recognize that we cannot achieve net zero emissions by 2050 without delivering sustainable energy for all by 2030. We all have a unique opportunity to move the needle on an inclusive energy transition through the COP26 Energy Transition Council process. Together with the UN High-Level Dialogue on Energy in September 2021, which I will also be chairing, this is a pivotal year for SDG 7. Both the COP26 campaign and the UN High-Level Dialogue on Energy need to be mutually reinforcing, just as energy access and energy transition are supportive of one another. One outcome of the UN High-Level Dialogue will be the UN Energy Compacts, where countries can pledge their new ambitious commitment on sustainable energy in writing at the UN Forum. We then track them over the decade of action on SDG 7. As member states, organizations, countries, and cities sign up to these UN Energy Compacts, It is critical that the international community rally around this to support with financing and technical assistance needed to turn the commitments to real action on ground. We have less than 10 years to go on the SDGs, including SDG 7. We must now turn towards supporting bold and ambitious plans that would deliver impact at scale to help achieve SDG 7 by 2030 on the road of achieving the 2050 climate targets. Thank you.
Damilola Ogunbi, thank you very much. And as you say, 2021 is a critical year indeed. Now, Dr. Fatih Birol is the Executive Director of the International Energy Agency, which tracks global energy markets both in the short term and across decades. What are the IEA's forecasts for the energy transition? Let's go over now to Dr. Birol. Dr. Birol.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, dear colleagues. It is great to see such inspiring colleagues around this virtual roundtable. The Secretary General spoke about the climate challenge, and so did Damilola, and urgency of that. Now, I believe that our climate challenge is essentially an energy challenge. Why? Because the energy that powers our daily lives, our economies, also alone produces about 80% of global emissions. This is one very important fact to keep in mind. This is number one. Number two, a very good news, China, EU, UK, Japan, they all came up with ambitious 2050 net zero targets. And I have no doubt that the President-elect Biden will announce United States to join this club. Altogether, they make about 60% of global CO2 emissions, and I do expect several countries, including some major developing nations, will join to this group. This is very good news to have such ambitions. But the issue is how to transform these ambitions into real energy action. It is the reason I would like to announce that the International Energy Agency is going to produce world's first roadmap to net zero by 2050. How we should transform our energy sector, all the industry, transportation, power sector, and the others, how much investment we need to put in place, and what we need to do, governments need to do to reach those targets in order to provide a concrete plan for all of us. And we are going to produce this report, release this report on 18th of May this year in order to provide a timely input for a successful COP26. And I would like to thank here Mr. Sharma very much for his trust in the International Energy Agency for requesting such work. And it is a great honor for us, Mr. Sharma. And the second point I wanted to highlight, if I may, bringing the countries around the world together and providing a momentum in the international context is critical. Again, it is the reason why, together with the UK government, the COP26 Presidency, International Energy Agency is organizing a Clean Energy Summit on 31st of March. The first of the summit we have organized last year. We had 40 ministers around the world, including many of the colleagues who are with us today. And we expect that this meeting, 31st of March, Clean Energy Summit, will provide a wonderful, beautiful bridge between Paris and Glasgow.
Dr. Birol, may I respectfully ask you to bring your words to a conclusion?
Support to you, Mr. Sharma, and your government. And I wish you all the best for the next months to come. And I have no doubt that under the able leadership of UK government, we will have a successful COP26. Thank you very much.
Dr. Birol, thank you very much. And we look forward to the IEA's roadmap carefully costed to net zero to 2050 for the world. Now, what about the role of the private sector? Let's get the perspective now from Mary Quaney, who is the CEO of Mainstream Renewable Power. It develops utility-scale renewable power projects in emerging markets. Mary Quaney, over to you.
Good afternoon, and many thanks for the opportunity to participate in such esteemed company today. As you've just said, Mainstream's mission, quite simply, is to electrify the world with renewable energy, as well as our focus on emerging markets and growth markets. We also develop offshore wind plants globally. We've developed almost a quarter of the UK's offshore wind projects, and we're now the largest renewable energy company in Chile, the second largest in South Africa. Our joint venture, Lekela Power, has the largest portfolio of renewable projects in Africa across Senegal, Egypt, and South Africa. Over the last 18 months, we've raised $2 billion to finance the construction of new renewable energy power plants, including our portfolio in Chile, which last year was the largest onshore renewable energy project financing anywhere globally. I say all of this not to boast, as there are many companies and organizations around the world developing, building, and operating renewable energy projects. I say it to give a sense of the speed and the scale at which this plant is being developed, and to give confidence that if you set an accelerated trajectory to build more renewables, then companies like mine will help you deliver those objectives in a just transition. And yet, of course, we need to do more, and much more. The International Renewable Energy Agency tells us that we need to quadruple the amount of renewable energy that we are currently building if we're to meet our Paris Agreement objectives. I was appointed Chief Executive of Mainstream last year, having been our finance director. So I know that there's a very, very large amount of capital available to put to work in the energy transition. I have seen at first hand how the considerable cost reduction in wind and solar technology has enabled us to successfully outbid existing coal plant and new gas plant to provide cheap, reliable, and large-scale generation. And what is needed now, I suggest, is new market design, better regulation to accelerate the deployment of that capital and the construction of new renewable energy. And this is a key role for the multilateral banks to help fund national climate plans and the system architecture that's needed to deliver them. We know very well what works. Countries with a long-term plan for transforming their energy sector using stable market-based instruments will crowd in that investment to deliver resilient and inexpensive renewables. In many markets, the electricity system is designed for yesterday's technology, and that's usually coal-fired generation. Often the regulations that govern how the system works don't allow for independent power production, or they're weighted towards incumbent generators. And by removing that institutional bias and better balancing risk sharing between the generator and the off-taker will reduce the cost of capital and attract a wider range of commercial finance. Where countries have set clear targets for renewables, we've seen very rapid investment. For instance, in South Africa and Chile, and in smaller markets like Senegal, like Zambia, and regularly updated medium-term energy plans, such as Vietnam's, for example, add further certainty and help to reduce the cost of deployment. So in summary, to quadruple the amount of investment in renewable energy to meet our Paris targets, we need to build the new electricity systems that will crowd in that investment. And to that end, we very much welcome the creation of the Energy Transition Council, the leadership of the COP Presidency, and the UN. And Mainstream will continue to work with our partners to deliver a world electrified by renewable energy. Many thank you.
Mary Quaney, thank you very much. A very clear exposition there from Mary Quaney, who was also talking about the importance of multilateral development banks and development finance institutions. Well, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina is the president of the African Development Bank. It's facilitated scores of renewable power projects across Africa, and he joins us now. How do you see the challenges ahead, Dr. Akinwumi?
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Dominic Raab, Right Honourable Alok Sharma. It's good to see you again. Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Honourable Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and friends of Africa. friends of a clean world in terms of climate. I wish to thank the government of the United Kingdom for the invitation to share with you today what the African Development Bank is doing in support of energy transition. I'd like to thank the UK government for its strong support to the African Development Bank. We're delighted to be a member of the COP26 Energy Transition Council. Africa has the lowest levels of access to electricity in the world, with 570 million people without electricity. Now, to meet the SDGs, as the UN Secretary General said, we must achieve universal access to electricity in Africa. The challenge for Africa is simple. Africa has so little electricity. This presents a real opportunity to build reliable, affordable, and sustainable energy systems for Africa. And that's why the African Development Bank launched the Light Up and Power Africa as one of our high five priorities. Since 2015, we have helped to provide electricity to 16 million people. And we've done so focusing mainly on renewable energy. Increasingly, the share of renewable energy in the bank's power generation investments now stand at 80%. The bank has been at the forefront of transformative renewable energy projects in Africa, including large-scale concentrated solar power projects in Morocco. The minister is here, one of the largest in the world. The Lake Turkana wind power project in Kenya, the largest in sub-Saharan Africa. The bank will no longer, I want to be very clear, fund any more coal projects. Coal is the past. Renewable energy is the future. Unlocking that renewable energy future will ensure that we are able to have a clean Africa. However, there are some challenges. The intermittency of solar and wind, the need for baseload power for grid stability, the prohibitive cost of energy storage, weak policy and regulatory environments for renewable energy, and limited financing for renewable energy. And we need to collectively scale up facilities for project preparation for renewable energy projects. We need to develop power transmission systems, ensure that the grids can effectively and efficiently combine renewable energy and other sources, and improve the performance of energy utilities while accelerating distributed energy systems, especially mini-grids, off-grids, and home solar PV systems. The bank's facility for energy inclusion, a $400 million facility supported by several donors, is providing debt financing to small and medium-sized renewable energy projects, including off-grid, on-grid integrated power projects, mini-grids, and industrial solar power projects. The bank's Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa is providing $500 million in blended finance support to countries and to the private sector to develop green base loads as alternatives to fuel-based options. We are also supporting credible energy transition plans for countries as part of COP26 Energy Transition Council efforts. The African Development Bank has launched a $20 billion Desert to Power program to build the largest solar zone in the world in the Sahel.
Dr. Akinwumi, may I respectfully ask you to draw your words to a close now?
I will finish in a moment.
Thank you.
The African Development Bank will continue to play its leadership role in supporting renewable energy for Africa. We expect to invest $10 billion in the energy sector over the next 5 years. When we light up and empower Africa, building on renewable energy and stable energy mix, we will definitely achieve a more economically prosperous and climate resilient Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akinwumi, and we share those views. Now, let's get a European perspective. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development also funds numerous power projects, renewable power projects, not just in Europe, but across the world. And it's also got an important just transition project to help communities that are focused on coal to move away and reskill. We're going to cross over now to the Director and Head of Energy for EMEA for EBRD, Harry Boyd Carpenter. Mr. Boyd Carpenter.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm speaking, as you said, on behalf of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and in particular our Managing Director for Sustainable Infrastructure, Nandita Parshad, who sends her regrets that she cannot join today. At EBRD, we've placed a massive emphasis on developing clean, renewable power. We financed more than 10,000 megawatts of private renewable capacity. And perhaps even more importantly, we have helped governments across our region put in place the frameworks that make those investments possible. The particular role that EBRD plays is to sit at that junction between public and private. We are a publicly owned multilateral development bank. Our policy dialogue is conducted with governments and authorities, but our investments are overwhelmingly in the private sector. We've learned 5 key lessons from this work, which I take the liberty to share with you. First, we have learned that renewable energy is not just low carbon, it is also the cheapest energy available now. And it's not just the cheapest, it's the fastest and lowest risk way to add new capacity. The price is absolutely stable. It does not pollute the air, it does not use any water, it adds energy security, and it creates jobs. Second, we've learned in country after country that well-structured competitive frameworks can catalyze the private sector to deliver renewable capacity faster and more cheaply than anyone expected. I'll mention just one example. 5 years ago, almost to the day, I visited a desert just north of Aswan in Egypt. That desert was empty, and Egypt had no significant solar capacity. Just 3 years after that visit, that same desert was covered in 6 million solar panels, producing 1.5 gigawatts of clean electricity from the Benban Solar Park, for which we are proud to be the leading financier, alongside our colleagues from the African Development Bank. It is also a country, Egypt, where we are about to finance a project which it has alongside the African Development Bank, which generates solar at a tariff of under $2.50 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's our third lesson. When we combine a clear government ambition with the right framework, the private sector will deliver at scale, with speed, and cheaply. Our fourth lesson is that we know clearly what the role of development banks such as EBRD is. We are there to provide money, especially for the first and most difficult projects. But our role is most of all to be an honest broker, to help the public and private sector come together and create the circumstances where private money and private energy can deliver this vital public good. My fifth and final lesson is that the transition has to be just. And we're very aware of this, operating in many countries which have regions heavily dependent on coal. Those regions have to have social and economic opportunities to replace the ones that they will necessarily lose. We need an enormous clean power transition. For all the excitement of recent years, renewable power still meets only a fraction of global energy demand. But the road ahead is clear. We know what we need to do. The challenge for each of us is to go along that road as fast as possible. I can assure you that for EBRD, we are accelerating our electric car down that road. Our money, our experience, and our advice are all committed to this vital transition.
Harry Boyd Carpenter, thank you very much indeed. A very clear exposition indeed. Interesting, isn't it, what we've heard from our speakers so far? The commitment to making sure that a sustainable path ahead does not leave out the poorest who have no access to electricity. We heard that from the Secretary General, we heard that from Damilola Ogunbuyi, and we also heard it from Dr. Akwami from the African Development Bank. Another common theme that we've been hearing is the importance of the private sector, the importance of making sure that we have a market framework that supports these ambitions. It's no good saying we need an accelerated transition in the direction of renewable power. We also need to make sure that we have the market structure, the policies in place, the legal framework to make sure that this is deliverable. So let's find out on the ground, what are the challenges that countries see? Joining us now, we have a number of senior ministers, as you can see, from Africa and from Europe, and they're going to tell us what they see as the achievements and the obstacles on the road ahead. I'm going to start first with a perspective from the African Union Commission. Here is Dr. Amani Abu Zaid. She's the Commissioner for Energy and Infrastructure at the African Union. Dr. Amani, your views, please.
Hello, everyone, and wish everybody a happy and healthy new year. I would like to start by thanking all of you for inviting the African Union to this important meeting, and particularly the UK for the leadership of this matter and for their partnership and cooperation with the African Union. Africa, as you've heard, we still have 600 million Africans who do not have access to energy. And to electricity, and we have 900 million Africans who still depend on charcoal and firewood for cooking. This is not only an economic problem, but also and mainly a moral issue and cause. This is happening in a continent that is endowed with renewable energy resources. Africa, as you know, has the potential of about 15 gigawatt of geothermal energy. Our hydro power energy is about 12% of the world total, which is about 1,800 terawatt. The Grand India hydropower just by itself can produce 42 gigawatt. And also we do have in Africa about 3 million metric tons of cobalt necessary for the batteries. So just to tell you how important the renewable energy resources in Africa. At the African Union, access to energy and inclusivity of energy is a prime goal within our Agenda 2063. We have launched recently the program aiming to support African regions and African countries to identify the deep decarbonizing pathways, which will be the first ever action-oriented undertaking in Africa as a whole, apart from South Africa. The aim is to provide a clear understanding of transformations needed for the African energy system in the short, medium, and long terms to achieve energy transition and develop a sectoral and technological detail, relevant policies and country-driven strategies consistent with the National Development Agenda and the Paris Agreement goals. I invite here all partners to join us to further develop this important transition program. This also goes together with our program for infrastructure development in Africa. We are launching the second phase this month for the next 10 years, and the program is expected to add additional 54 gigawatt to the African energy sector by 2040. Our African Renewable Energy Initiative, which was launched during the COP26 in Paris, is also another African Union priority, is expected to add additional 300 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity in Africa by 2030. And our program for geothermal energy adds, for both the public and the private sector, adds about 20 gigawatt of geothermal energy. Excellencies, the work on energy transition in Africa, in all African countries, is moving very ambitiously and aggressively. Of course, the COVID-19 added the concept of energy resilience and energy security.
Dr. Amani, sorry, Your Excellency, if you wouldn't mind just wrapping up quite soon, that would be great.
Sure. I would like also to draw the attention to the gas to power and the gas for cooking, which is another important program for the African Union. Excellencies, we need your support, we need the funding and the resources, we need the technical expertise, and I know and I'm sure that all partners here will join us in many of these programs and many of these ambitions, and I thank you.
Dr. Amani Abu Zayed from the African Union, thank you so very much for joining us. We're now going to move on to get a European perspective, I believe. Joining us from Germany is the Federal Environment Minister, Svenja Schulze. Germany, we all know, is a leader in renewable energy, but it too is having to manage a difficult transition because a lot of German electricity comes from fossil fuel, from lignite and coal. So it's not a straight path for Germany either. It's going to be expensive and it's very time-consuming. Let's find out more from the German Energy Minister now. Svenja Schulze, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all of you, and thanks to Alex Sharma for organizing this powerful event. You all know that the year 2020 will be remembered by all of us as a painful time, a year overshadowed by major human tragedy and economic damages caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And this global challenge can only be overcome through joint action. And the start of the vaccination gives us hope that we are making decisive progress in the fight against this pandemic. In 2020, we also saw significant breakthroughs in another global challenge, and that is the fight against climate change. And several countries announced their plans to reach net zero emissions by 2050. The EU significantly increased its 2030 climate target, its NDC, from 40% to at least 55%. And you mentioned it before, Germany is phasing out coal by 2038 at the latest, and by 2030, at least 65% 75% of our electricity will come from renewable energy sources. Our neighboring continent, Africa, offers the ideal geographic conditions for renewable energies. Amani said that before. For instance, electricity can be supplied for remote regions and development prospects created. They also ensure an independent energy supply for the countries. And Africa has an historical opportunity to achieve 100% access to energy and 100% renewables, which means 100% carbon-free energy. And I welcome really the cooperation in the Marrakesh Partnership, the Global Action Agenda, and the COP26 Energy Transition Campaign. This cooperation makes an important contribution to implementing SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. And international climate finance also provides important support. Germany doubled its contribution to 4 billion euros a year. We're also advocating an international process for climate finance post-2020. And we are supporting African partner countries in the implementation of decarbonization strategies. And here it is important to us to ensure local added value and a just transition. And we want to further strengthen our cooperation with the African Union and other regional organizations. And this cooperation focuses on aspects of sustainability and financing possibilities which do not lead to one-sided dependencies. I see major potential for financing instruments like carbon pricing for the expansion of renewable energies. Like in Germany, however, in developing countries and emerging economies, most of the investments required will have to come from the private sector. And to do this, it will need the right framework conditions and infrastructure.
Minister Schulze, please would you bring your intervention to a close?
Yes, I just let me say, we need to work together, and that's what I think is the hopes for a successful new year, that we go into action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister Schulze, for that very positive contribution there. We're going to move to Morocco now, one of the leaders in renewable energy in sub-Saharan Africa, but still dependent on an awful lot of coal for its electricity generation. How are they going to accelerate the transition? Here's the Moroccan Minister of Energy, Mines and the Environment, Aziz Rabah. Over to you, Minister Rabah.
Thank you very much. I will speak in Arabic. You can أولاً على هذه الدعوة الطيبة وهذه المناسبة في 3 دقائق.
I would like to begin by greeting everyone. It's my hope that this greeting will reach all our partners at the United Nations, the International Forum for Energy Agency, and our partners, whether they're states or others. Now, the SDGs are our ambition that we decided on. And you will note that a great deal of investment, foreign direct investment, has been made in renewable energy since 2020. And this is opening up pathways to creation of offshore centers, but this does not mean that we will stop creating onshore plants, land-based plants. Renewable resources will be used to serve all our industries so that we can remain competitive. Of course, the European Union is our primary partner in this endeavor. We also produce renewable energy, and it is our aspiration that all our industries will use renewable energy and do so at a rate of 100%. we have been reviewing our administrative and legal framework as well as our legislation to ensure that we can actually realize these ambitions. Furthermore, Morocco is very keen on its partnership with other African countries because we are an African country, and we are therefore working alongside all other African countries in a bid to arrive at appropriate solutions for electricity and energy production, and we plan to use renewable sources for this. And this is also in conjunction and partnership with the European Union. In partnership with the European Union and the African Union as well. We also have a partnership with the private sector. In the coming decade.
So I'm going to say thank you very much to Minister Rabah there, and we're going to now move to Ethiopia, which has an abundance of hydropower and is hoping to become a hydro exporter. But despite that, right now, it suffers from insufficient power. The Ethiopian Minister for Water, Irrigation and Energy, those three are intimately linked in Ethiopia. Minister Seleshi Bekele joins us now. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's obvious truth that energy drives everything in this world. Today, one of the greatest challenges we are facing is how to achieve and sustain a reliable and affordable supply of energy for all. This energy agenda has economic, technological, environmental, political, and overall civilizational dimensions that need to be
Could I please have the translation off in my ear?
To the benefit of all of us today as well as future generations. Toward this, Ethiopia has implemented climate resilient green economy strategy since 2011, aiming to protect the country from the adverse effects of climate change and to build a green and sustainable economy, thereby achieving zero net carbon emissions. Since 2011, Ethiopia has firmly committed itself to the implementation of the strategy and accordingly has been developing its renewable energy resources in a responsible manner, despite the fact that the initial investment cost of renewable energy is relatively high. In most of African countries, there is a need to improve the quality of life of our citizens, apart from the difficulties in improving literacy, health, and access to clean water. The low rate of electrification and per capita consumption of energy is a severe concern to my government, like many other African countries. Ethiopia's electricity access is 45%, and it faces the second highest electricity access deficit in Africa, where more than 65 million population live without electricity, which poses a binding constraint for our socio-economic development. The country is endowed with a variety of renewable energy potential, including hydro, wind, geothermal, solar, and bioenergy. Despite the presence of a variety of these, only 4.5 gigawatt energy is exploited so far. As a result, the bulk of the national energy consumption is made from biomass sources. This indicates the country has a long road to energy transition. Ethiopia works hard in bringing from 4.5 gigawatt to 20 gigawatt by 2030, all from renewable. As an immediate addition comes the 8.7 gigawatt mainly hydro-based construction, which is really more than double of what we have currently. So it will bring the much aspired leapfrogging in energy generation capacity. The National Electrification Program adapts a sector-wide approach for design, implementation, and syndication of financing requirements, which is estimated to be a total around $6 billion. It intends to coordinate activities and investment, everything on public, private, and development partner support.
Minister Seleshi, please could you bring your intervention to a close soon?
Yes, for the realization of this massive ambitious program, is looking not only the grid system, but also the off-grid system to reach out to the most distant, most disadvantaged people, as well as to utilize the electricity access for productive use to improve on other SDG targets. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Minister Seleshi. We're going to cross over to Senegal now, where renewable power is still very much in its infancy. What are their plans to accelerate that? Here is the Minister of Petroleum and Energy, Sophie Gladima. Minister Gladima. Minister Gladima, please do start. I think the line to you is muted, Minister Gladima. Could you try and unmute yourself? Okay, I tell you what, we'll try and join you a little bit later in our roundtable meeting. We're going to move on now to Spain, which has a well-established renewable energy sector. How does it share its expertise? Here is the Minister for the Ecological Transition, Teresa Ribera. Minister Ribera. Unfortunately, we don't have Minister Ribera from Spain, though I think she was with us just a short while ago. So we're going to try and re-establish communication links with Spain and also with Senegal. And in a minute or two, we'll hear from these two very different countries. Senegal is still trying to expand on its renewable energy footprint. It requires a lot of diesel power at the moment in order to supply the electricity to its citizens. Spain, on the other hand, has a very well-established industry and has programs to share its expertise with other countries, especially in Africa. We've been hearing a great deal in the course of our roundtable about the European and African collaboration. The EBRD talking about the work that it's been doing across Africa, in Morocco, in Egypt, also in Kenya. Okay, let's get a perspective now from Nigeria, which has no shortage of natural resources, but still millions suffer from a crippling lack of access to electricity, and most of the electricity comes from diesel. What is the country doing about that? Well, here's the Deputy Minister for Power, Godi Jedi Agba. Over to you, Minister.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, and my dear friends, it is my pleasure to give this remarks and shed light on Nigeria's energy transition, focus on what is needed to accelerate this. Nigeria is taking steps towards energy access and energy transition conversation as the largest unified population globally resides within our borders. As such, it is important that we give access to the unelectrified population of 85 million people using remarkable renewable energy sources to maintain Nigeria and Africa's low contribution to carbon emission. Our ambition here is demonstrated by the radical removal of fuel subsidy in Nigeria, which now takes the off to more competitive, as well as the 5 million solar connection programs, which were included in COVID-19 recovery strategy, titled Bouncing Back, the Economy's Sustainability Plan. We now have our global partners to support Nigeria to implement this. One major area of support in implementing this plan is in securing finance for the private sector. According to the International Energy Agency, IEA, achieving universal energy access in Africa will cost $8.8 billion annually. When you consider that the fact that Nigeria accounts for about 50% of Africa's unelectrified population, we can roughly estimate that we need approximately $4 billion annually to achieve universal access in Nigeria in a clean and sustainable way. Our Rural Education Agency, REA, with technical support from Sustainable Energy for All, CEO, has identified target households living geographical data at each and is taking other steps to make these 5 million connections viable. The presence of the World Bank resource-based grant in Nigeria also offers an opportunity that we must take advantage of. Now, we need the international community to to support these convergent efforts by providing access, skill, and type of financing required to help us achieve our ambition. In addition to financing, we also require support in the form of technical assistance to define Nigeria's energy transition space and develop a plan that helps us achieve the net zero carbon by 2050. We recognize that this will largely be the function of our energy needs, which further explains our rationale for merging energy access and energy transition conservation. Many of our partners have already been helping us improve our power reliability, but we need to move faster and at much greater
Minister,
pace.
may I respectfully ask you to conclude your comments?
Okay, we need this help to project further on this aspect and hope that we will achieve our zero objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. Energy access, such an important thing in Nigeria. We're going to try again to connect with Spain. Let's see if we have the Minister for the Ecological Transition there at the ready. Teresa Ribera, are you with us?
Yes, apologies. I'm blocked at home because of the extreme weather event in Madrid.
No need to apologize. The floor is yours.
No. So the issue is that I had some problems with the batteries. Apologies. But now I'm here. Thank you so much. I think that the most important message is that the energy transition is quite an important issue everywhere. Access to sustainable energy and how we can achieve it in a context where social inclusiveness is a reality. And this is what we are striving. Coming from a past where, of course, as in many other countries, fossils were the main solution to something that should be more efficient, more electrified, and, of course, more renewable. And how we can do this as fast as possible to fight climate change, but at the same time, taking into consideration the importance of inclusiveness, social inclusiveness. So we are about to adopt the climate law that commits to net zero by 2050 and identifies the midterm targets by 2030, reducing a third of our emissions by that date compared to 2015, and taking into consideration that we want to achieve 42% of renewable energy over the final use of our country, and 39.5 improvement of energy efficiency, phasing out coal at the very highest speed probably ever. In less than 2 years, over 70% of the coal capacity has disappeared in our country, and it has been quite challenging. This is why we insist on the idea of energy poverty and fair transition at the labor level for workers and at the regional level. Those areas where people live for generations to get this life, to get their lives out of coal plants and coal mining. And we have been working on a decarbonized economy with a just transition strategy that has to be updated every 5 years, working at the roots, working at the ground with neighbors, unions, and the business community. So to build new opportunities in the same areas where the different neighbors are facing challenging situations in terms of work. We think that it's very important to be very ambitious in social policies and labor policies in this context, but also to ensure that the business opportunities are sound, so to ensure that things can last along the years. Just transition energy needs this type of response. We have identified
Minister
projects
Rivera, please may I respectfully ask you to draw your words to a conclusion.
Thank you so much. What is my main message is that we need to work with people. So to be sure that everybody understands and feels the key player of the design of their own future. So coming along with people and coming along with small villages, small communities to build up opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Ribera. Indeed, thank you to all of you eminent ministers, energy and environment ministers. We really appreciate that you took the time out of your busy schedules to join us at this COP26 roundtable. We're now going to give you the perspective of the COP26 Presidency partners, UK and Italy, starting off with the UK Foreign Minister, Dominic Raab, Foreign Secretary.
Thank you very much. Secretary General, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just start by thanking everyone for joining us for this important roundtable and what is proving to be an excellent discussion. It's great to hear about some of the progress as we enter the new year, hopefully with a spirit of optimism, notwithstanding the challenges. There's real progress so many countries are making on clean power. We're making decisive steps towards delivering Sustainable Development Goal 7 on clean, affordable energy. That's clear, I think, from Nigeria's proposed solar homes program, Egypt's proposed power sector reforms, Morocco's aspirations for cleaner power for all. And I think that's just a few examples of the great practice that we're starting to see create a virtuous cycle. And I think it shows how far we've come. Many countries are pivoting towards renewable energy, but we want to see developed countries showing more leadership in quitting coal. And we want to see that happen as soon as is realistically possible. The UK has already cut coal from 40% of our energy mix in 2012 to 0% now on most days. And I think that President-elect Biden's pledge to achieve a carbon pollution-free power sector by 2035 is hugely important as we enter the new year. So we've got an opportunity, and I think we must seize the opportunity to invest in clean power as part of a green recovery and pitch it very much as part of green jobs and a green future, not just the sacrifices that have to be made in order to tackle climate change. I think that's how we can build back better when the fight against COVID-19 is finally and sustainably won. That will include expanding energy access to support jobs and productive livelihoods. In fact, I think one of the strongest actions countries can take to stimulate economic growth is to target their stimulus spending and their fiscal policies towards cleaner technologies, because that is, I think, increasingly clear where the market is shifting towards. Makes economic sense as well as environmental sense. We're at a tipping point in the economics of clean power. Solar and wind are now cheaper than new coal and gas power plants in most countries. Clean power has other benefits as well. It can improve energy access through off-grid solar power. It can improve the resilience of power systems because it is less centralized, more locally distributed. And of course, greater international collaboration is going to be absolutely key to our collective success to support that faster transition away from coal and other fossil fuels. We in the UK are determined to take a lead with ambitious policy commitments on both support for adaptation and achieving net zero emissions. Those two things must come together. We're taking the lead in clean energy with world-leading delivery of offshore wind and world-class research in batteries, smart grids, electric vehicles. Since 2011, UK aid has provided over 26 million people with improved access to clean energy and installed 1,600 megawatts of clean energy capacity. So looking ahead, we'll be working flat out to raise everyone's sights ahead of our presidency with our Italian friends of the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow in November. That starts with our commitment to double our climate finance to £11.6 billion. That will be oriented more than ever towards adaptation and resilience for the very poorest and towards nature-based solutions like restoring forests and wetlands and protecting communities from floods and landslides. And with all of that in mind, I just want to also say that I'm pleased to announce that today, £38 million of UK funding for the Climate Compatible Growth Programme has been set out. That will help developing countries take a path of low-carbon development that unlocks investment in green infrastructure, that opens up new markets and helps deliver on those SDGs. The programme also aims to sustain and accelerate global action beyond COP26 by building deep, effective and long-term partnerships. This is a crucial year in so many ways. We're determined to keep raising ambitions around the global fight against climate change. We think this goes hand in hand with the recovery from COVID. And so we're absolutely dedicated, committed to ensuring COP26 is a transformational moment and a springboard for future action. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Foreign Secretary, and we sincerely hope so too. And now let's get the perspective from Rome. Here is the Italian Foreign Affairs Minister, Luigi Di Maio. Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much, dear Dominic, dear colleagues, distinguished guests. I'm glad to be here today and to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the United Nations in its contribution to a clean and safe environment. This year should be a turning point in the fight against climate change. As presidencies of the G20 and G7 and partners for the COP26, Italy and UK will lead multilateral efforts in this direction. I'm sure that we will be able to make the most out of our strong partnership. Dealing with the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic has taken a toll on the environmental protection too, slowing down green initiatives and energy transition programs. It is time to get back on track. At the national level, we are working on a sustainable, eco-friendly and inclusive recovery plan. Transition to circular economy and low-emission production cycles have been given priority in public policy. Cutting-edge technology is essential to achieve complete decarbonization by 2050. We are fully committed to this goal at both national and EU level. We call on all parties to the Paris Agreement to ensure its full implementation in order to curb greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. We are confident that the United States under the new administration will rejoin the agreement soon, making it broader and more effective. The strategic nexus among technology, energy, and climate represents a key concept of the Italian G20 presidency. Promoting sustainable and smart cities, as well as orienting global capital flows towards green transition and fight for climate, will be also on top of our agenda. As partner for the COP26, we will hold its main preparatory events. At the Youth for Climate 2021 in Milan, we will focus on the contribution of young people to the fight against climate change. Moreover, we will host in Rome an high-level ministerial outreach event on environmental and climate challenges in Africa. Being at the forefront of the international efforts to support Africa in its development, Italy has been working with international agencies and the private sector to foster smarter digital power infrastructure in the African countries. Such an improvement would boost the energy efficiency and facilitate energy access for local communities. Achieving a clean energy transition should not be a privilege for few. In order to be fully in line with UN values, it must be a universal goal in the interest of the entire international community. Italy is committed to work for this goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Foreign Minister Di Maio. Interesting what he was saying about the importance of technology, wasn't it? Our chief listener here, COP26 President Alok Sharma, is about to have the final word. Before then, I just want to apologize to those countries and speakers we weren't able to connect with, Senegal in particular. I'm afraid the technology gods were against it. Mr. Sharma, I saw that you were scribbling furiously as people were speaking. Tell us what your takeaways are.
Well, Nisha, thank you very much, and thank you for your great listening today as well. Secretary General Guterres, ministers, friends, it is an absolute honor to join you all to mark the 75th anniversary of the United Nations in a year which is going to be absolutely momentous for progress on tackling climate change. And no organization has done more to bring countries together to tackle the threat of climate change than the United Nations. And I want to thank the Secretary General for his continued and incredibly decisive leadership on this issue. And I also want to thank all of you, all friends, particularly all friends who have listened in, for the discussion today and for your leadership in this area. We've had some brilliant contributions today, and I want to give just a few examples. We've heard about Nigeria connecting 5 million homes with solar power. We've heard about Ethiopia expanding energy across energy access through off-grid renewables. We've heard about Germany phasing out coal and doubling climate finance. We've heard about Spain legislating for net zero and the support for just transition. And of course, the African Development Bank supporting transformational projects across the continent. And I think what this shows is it is absolutely vital that we continue to work together in this way collaboratively, because tackling the climate change crisis requires a truly global effort. Rising sea levels, heat waves, mega storms and droughts, they do not respect borders and frontiers. And that is why we need everyone to play their part, whether it's governments or it's regions, development banks, businesses, investors, civil society. We all understand that a truly global effort is needed to respond to a global crisis. And as you've heard from my friend, Maio, and our Italian partners, we are putting climate action at the heart of the international agenda this year through our work on COP26, but then also, of course, through our respective G7 and G20 presidencies. And it is why a key goal of my COP26 presidency is going to be enhancing that international collaboration, which is vital. And this is needed to deliver transition in education and adaptation and in finance. And I've said it before, and I will say it once again, the golden thread of climate action must be woven through every single international gathering that we have this year. Because it is by working together we can innovate faster, create economies of scale, and strengthen incentives for investment. But we will only access those gains by tailoring our approach to each challenge or sector. And that's, of course, why I very much welcome the IEA's excellent plans for a net zero roadmap, setting out what must be done in each sector to reach net zero by 2050. And it is why I'm very proud to work with Germany, with Italy, with Morocco and other friends on mission innovation, speeding up that clean energy innovation. And it is why our COP26 campaigns are focusing global efforts on 5 critical challenges: nature, finance, adaptation, transport, and of course, in the context of our discussion today, energy. And we all know that the power sector exemplifies the benefits of collaboration. The IEA and our friend, Dr. Patty Birol, as we've heard today, tell us that the global transition to clean power must move at least 4 times faster than the current pace if we are to keep our Paris targets within reach. And we must, of course, do this in a way that is fair for all, whilst increasing access to electricity around the world. Now, of course, action from individual states is vital. Ethiopia's have had a recent deal for a 100-megawatt wind farm. Morocco's Noor complex, solar complex, which is the world's largest concentrated solar plant. Our efforts in this area reinforce one another, and they allow us to make progress faster. And of course, civil society has also helped to build support for clean power in very many countries. As we've heard, economies of scale have reduced the cost for everyone. We heard from Harry Boyd Carpenter about costs. Solar and wind power costs have fallen by 28% and 15% respectively, each time global deployment has doubled. And together, we can build on these gains and support the transition in developing countries, bringing the economic and environmental benefits of clean, resilient, affordable power to people around the world. And it's an absolute pleasure to work with all of you here today to achieve this. With Ethiopia, Germany, Italy, and Senegal, and others, the UK is, of course, a member of the Powering Past Coal Alliance, driving that move away from coal. And as part of our COP26 campaign on clean power, the UK has launched, as we've heard, the Energy Transition Council. I'm incredibly grateful to the brilliant Damilola Ogunbayi for co-chairing this group. It's making a big, big difference. And of course, to all of you here who are taking part, so thank you so much. The Council, as you know, brings together political, financial and technical leaders in the global power sector and works with business and civil society to accelerate the move from coal to clean power in a way that is fair to all, and of course, to improve the international support for developing countries. So friends, I say this to you, by working together, we can achieve the clean energy transition at the scale and the pace that is actually required, whilst at the same time protecting jobs and livelihoods. If I can say this to us all, this is our moment in history to make those vital, decisive, and positive choices so that we can protect the future of our planet and our peoples. So let's continue to work together to bring the benefits of clean, affordable, and resilient power to the world. And I give you my pledge, we will do everything we can working together to see success at COP26. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alok Sharma. Well spoken indeed. That was the COP26 President, Alok Sharma, laying out his vision for the year ahead. It's going to be a year of many more such meetings, roundtables like this one, meetings of the Energy Transition Council, meetings of engaged parties, country level, private sector, and civil society. And the goals are to agree on specific actions, to raise specific funding, and to make demonstrable progress by November 2021. A big thank you to all our speakers, eminent ministers, all. Thank you to you for joining us on UN TV. I'm Nisha Pillay from me and the COP26 team. Goodbye for now.